All right, so inside this anti-static bag is the frame for the 10-inch build that I'm working on. This is the second video in this series. The first video covered the electronics that's going to go into this build, so I'll link that video in the description in case you missed it. And for this video, we're just going to take a look at the frame itself, talk about it, and also put it together, and then I'll have more videos with the next stages of this build. But for now, I'm going to go ahead and take all these parts out, and we'll start talking about this frame. All right, so I got all the parts out here. There's nothing really descriptive on the bag. It's just GK10 on here, so it's a 10-inch frame. This is a clone of the GEPRC Pulsar LR10, which, as far as I know, is discontinued, is not being produced anymore. So I'm not exactly sure if this is 100% exactly the same. From the pictures that I saw of this frame from the Amazon listing, it looked really, really close. For those of you that happen to have this frame, let me know if it's an exact copy or a inspired copy. There's a little bit of a difference there between the two. But I'm not expecting much in terms of the quality of this frame, because they're pretty much all of these that you find on Amazon, AliExpress, Banggood, they're probably all made by like third-party manufacturers that maybe found the STL files for the frame and they were just mass producing them at the lowest possible cost. So I can't vouch for the quality of the carbon fiber on this one here. Just looking at it, I can tell just from the arms that you can see the edges here are sharp. And I know that if you saw some of the videos on the GEPRC frame, they're like beveled. So like they're basically, the edges are like shaved down so it's nice and smooth. Although I don't see any rough edges or burring on here, so it looks pretty clean. It's just that they didn't do any of the basically edge treatment here to sort of make it smooth, but the quality seems okay. I think this is a 6mm arm. Yeah, it's not going to bend at all, but it is going to take a 10-inch prop, so something to consider. And another thing worth noting is that most of these frames should come around $80. That's, I think, what I paid for this was $78 plus tax. So depending on where you get the listing on Amazon, kind of shifts around. So check the link. When I purchased it, it said that the import costs or the tariffs, if you're a U.S. resident, those were included in the price, so I didn't have to pay any additional import fees. But some listings didn't say anything about that. So if you happen to see that doesn't show anything about that, you need to contact the seller to find out if there's going to be any tariffs on it. Now, regarding the cost, I believe the original GEPRC frame was like double the cost, like around $160, which is kind of insane. Obviously, there's a lot more carbon fiber here. That's understandable, but $150, $160 for frame is kind of crazy. But if you guys know of a source that has the original GEPRC frame for sale for less than $78, let me know. I would be interested in picking up another one of these. And here's a look at the top plate. Looks like I said, pretty close to the original. Again, sharp edges, but no burring. Does have the countersunk screw holes there, so that's consistent with the original frame. And here's the battery pad with the cutouts in there. So this looks also pretty original. And here's the sandwich plate for the arms. And it does come with the press fit nuts, the hardware already installed. As you can see here, this is where the screws go in for the arms. These are M3 screws, of course. The original GEPRC hardware, I believe these were silver and not black. So these are a little bit nicer. In fact, I think black looks a little better than the silver ones. And here's all of the hardware. So nice black standoffs and looks like black M3 screws. Yeah, so these are actually black and not gray. Sometimes they come in gray for the GEPRC models, but kind of nice that they're in black. All right, so here are the 3D printed parts. Yeah, these are, so there's 4 of them. So these are for the camera mounting, and I'm not 100% sure which camera it's for. I'm going to be using this with the original DJI FPV system, the OG. And then you've got this, I think these go in the back for your antennas And then this is for your receiver antenna. I think they go in the back like this, kind of something like this, I think. So no GoPro mount on this one. So I know the GEPRC one does come with a GoPro mount. This one does not seem to come with that. You know, the side plates for the camera. And then you got this front plate here for the front of the quad to give it a little more protection. But as you can see, there's no instructions. So I am just going to be kind of building this off of sort of some guesses, and also based on the pictures. So it shouldn't be too difficult. I believe this is that middle sandwich plate. You have this little locking plate here for the arms. And then we'll start with the bottom plate. I think this will be here. You can see probably this is where the camera mounts go into. You just slide in here. Let's see how this fits. Yeah, that fits all right. It's not rattling around too much. So everything's cut pretty good. And then, so this over here is the top plate, and then the camera plates go in there like that. So this is the top like that. So let's see. So it should be pretty straightforward to put this together. The shorter ones are going to be, arms are going to be for the front, and then these longer ones are for the back, because this is a dead cat frame. I think the tricky thing is to figuring out which screws go where. It's going to be a little bit of trial and error, I think. But you can see that both of the arms in the front and the back are identical. They're just flipped over for the other side. Yeah, so this is probably one back arm, so it's going to be like this. And then the other back arm is going to be like this. And then we're going to stick that center piece in here and then do the front arm. So let me come back and put the screws in, figure out which screws go where, and then we'll see what this looks like. All right, so I got the basics of the frame put together here with the bottom plate, this little sandwich plate, and the four arms. And I did discover that screws are kind of a strange size. So you get these, I forget the size of this kind of longer screw, and then you get a slightly longer screw than this. So there's 4 that I used here for these standoffs that are slightly longer than these, and then 6 of these, and then those go into the holes where you have the press fit nuts. So I put 2 here for the arms, 2, and then there's one right here, and then there's 2 left for this. Basically, there's that locking piece that goes in the middle underneath here, and then there's 2 press fit nuts here for that. So there's 2 left over for those 2 holes. These are for the 30 by 30 flight stack. So I'm not sure why these are a little bit extra long. They did include these locking nuts, and I'm assuming that's probably for these. That's why they made them longer, so that you can get a little bit of extra security on these screws here, so they don't screw out. That's the only thing I can think of. So I'll put those on later. But yeah, basically, yeah, at this point, it's going to. You can put this into this hole here. You can see this one will also be a little bit longer as well and stick out, but it shouldn't interfere with the stack at all. And then tighten down all of these. But in terms of everything fitting together, it's very precise. So they did a good job with all the cuts and everything. Everything is pretty much exactly correct. I didn't feel like there was anything that was fitting or it was difficult to put anything together. It's just that I found that these were a little bit longer than what they would show on the GEPRC model. So this is a slight change from the original. I'm not sure if that's good or bad, but while I have this, I can show you that there's that plate there that's kind of locking the arms in place, and then you have these holes in the bottom, so you can get access to those M3 holes for the flight stack, this 30 by 30 stack. And then on the bottom here, you have all these holes here in the back for various VTXs. So multiple VTXs, it's looks like Swiss cheese here, but fortunately there's nothing in terms of weight that's going to be in the back here, so that's totally fine. But I mean, there's not much to this frame. It's pretty simple. Once you get the arms in place, that locking piece, and get that sandwich plate in there, you just got to put on the camera plates and basically put in the rest of the standoffs, which were these longer ones. So basically these are the shorter ones go in the middle, of course, and then these longer ones are going to go here like this. And then you put on the top plate, and the top plate uses these special countersunk screws to keep everything flat. So might as well just go ahead and I'll just put everything together, and then we'll talk about the rest of the frame. All right, so here's the frame put together, and as I'm going to fly it, so I've elected not to attach the rear antenna mounts. They're going to go back here. So that's where they normally go. Plus, I think this one should have another one where it comes with a GPS mount, but this one does not. So I'm not going to use that because I'm going to put my air unit here, but I'm going to have the antennas on the arms instead of out the back. So you'll see that later in the build. So these, I'll include this in the weight, but I'm just telling you that I'm not putting them on there. Basically, you just have these 6 of these longer standoffs here. There's 2 that go in the middle here, and then the 4 shorter ones, and then the top plate, and you can see where the countersunk screws go in. Very nice. No GoPro mount here, so the GEPRC one does come with a GoPro mount that this one does not include. So I'll have to find some sort of a 3D printed STL somewhere to reuse in this frame, because I am going to use the original DJI system. And then here's the front with the cameras. Now these little TPU mounts, I think they go inside here like so. So they'll go in there with the when the camera goes in, and then you have the little skid plate here on the front. So if you do rub the front here, there's a little extra carbon to give that front a little extra durability. But here's what the bottom looks like. I've decided not to put on these little lock nuts here for the longer screws. They just didn't look. I like the all black look, so I'm going to stick with that. And for those of you wondering, in terms of the carbon thickness, top plate's 3 millimeters thick, the sandwich plate and the bottom plate's 3 millimeters thick, and the arms are 7 millimeters thick. So this is a very beefy frame. All right, so weight of the frame by itself, well over 250 grams. In case anyone's wondering, definitely not going to hit that. 410 grams without the extra parts. So I'm going to put the, if you're wondering about the parts in the back, that takes up to 430. And then I should include these little camera mounts as well. So this is probably how most people will fly it, 432 without any electronics in them. And then I will have this off of here, and then the camera mounts. So probably the way I'm going to fly it is around 413 grams. There were these 4 little tiny standoffs that I have no idea what this was for. I didn't see that in any of the pictures anywhere. So if you know what these are for, let me know in the comments. Very curious, but that's pretty much it. Frame's built out. Gonna put the electronics into this frame on the next part of this build, in this build series. That'll be the 3rd video. Gonna put the electronics in and the FPV system in, and then that'll be part 3. So stay tuned for that. If you're wondering, I'm not sure when that'll be out, probably in a couple of weeks or so. And that'll do it for this one. Link will be in the description if you guys want to check out this frame. I'll talk to you guys in the next one.